Hello, Sorcery fans. Welcome to my next Gothic pre-constructed deck tech. Today we're going to take a look at the cards inside the Harbinger pre-constructed deck from Sorcery's Gothic expansion set. Yesterday we looked at the Persecutor deck, and before that we saw the Necromancer deck. Each of these decks contain one avatar. This is going to be the Harbinger avatar. It's new to Sorcery's contested realm. 16 Atlas Sites, 36 spell cards. This is the avatar complexity of 3 out of 3 spots. So this might be the most challenging deck to play or pilot in Sorcery. We're going to open that up. We're going to take a look at all the cards, admire the art, and then when my booster boxes of Gothic arrive, I'm going to do some box openings and start completing a complete set of Gothic cards. There's 440 plus cards in the set, twice the size of Arthurian Legends. Just a little bit bigger than the alpha beta sets, so it's going to be a challenge, but I appreciate everyone for liking this video and subscribing to the channel for all my sorcery content. I also do Magic the Gathering, but today we're going to concentrate on the Harbinger Atlas and this deck tech. Art again is by Dan Seagrave. I have a inkling that he did all of the new avatars in this set. It has 20 life and 1 power toughness. Its tap ability is to play or draw a site, and on setup, you determine 3 random squares on the grid. Once on your turn, you can cast a minion to one of them for 1 colorless less. That's the avatar. Pretty cool. I think this is going to be an air-water deck based on the preview on the back of the box, but first card in the deck is 2 copies of Willing Tribute. It's a 2 colorless, 1 air threshold for 2 power, an ordinary offering, mortal. 1 mortal, you sacrifice it to untap an adjacent evil ally. Put that in our mortal pile. We have 2 copies of 10-ton slug, 7 colorless, 2 water threshold for a 7 power ordinary monster. It has some flavored text that's really too small to read, but art is by Aranja Art. Brand new to Sorcery. Welcome to Sorcery's Contested Realm. Aranja Art, just beautiful. We have 1 copy of Yog-Sothoth. 7 colorless, 4 water, 10 power toughness. That's a record for Sorcery. It is a unique monster that transcends comprehension clearly, and it occupies locations safely. It banished without 5 voids, and it ignores the ability of sights. Art is by Brian Smith. That's unique. I don't know the prices yet. I could look them up in TCG Player, but I'm filming this December 2nd before Gothic is released on December 5th. So as soon as the booster boxes arrive and the prices are announced, I'll start doing some box openings and market discussion on the secondary market prices of the Sorcery Gothic cards. I'm going to guess that the uniques in the pre-constructed decks are fairly common uniques and are probably in the $5 range. So these pre-constructed deck kits are selling for about $60, which means each of the decks inside are about $15 a piece. So I'm expecting, a $5 unique and then $10 worth of ordinary, exceptional, and elite cards. Moving on, we have a Falling Star. It's a 4 colorless, 1 air threshold, elite aura. Your last 3 turns, whenever the star falls, you may summon a minion from your hand atop an affected site. It strikes each other unit where it lands. Art is by Doug Kovacs. Very nice. First spell of the deck as I knock everything over. We have 2 copies of Shoggoth, which we got in the last deck. 6 colorless, 2 water for 5 power ordinary monster, which had Submerge and Voidwalk. 1 copy of the Adj Kagan Ghost Crabs. 2 colorless, 2 water threshold, 0 power elite spirit. It has Submerge and Voidwalk, but it has +1 power for each void in their row. Art here is by Elvira Shekarova, and we have 1 copy of that in this deck. 2 copies of Forsaken, 2 colorless, and 2 air threshold for a 3 power ordinary undead with Void Walk. Must be cast to the outer column. On the playmat, we have 2 copies of this beautiful Sea Witch by Heidi Tailfefer or Talifer. Looks fantastic. It's 2 colorless and a water for a 2 power ordinary mortal merfolk, and she's a spellcaster and has submerged. So if you're a merfolk fan of Magic the Gathering, you will like this deck. 1 copy of the Static Servant, 2 colorless and an air threshold for a 2 power ordinary monster. Art is by Brahm. Beautiful. And its Genesis abilities that each other unit here takes 1 damage. We have 2 copies of the Mesmer Demon, 3 colorless and 2 water threshold for a 3 power ordinary demon with Genesis ability of tap target adjacent enemy minion and make it a step closer. Art is by Doug Kovac. 2 copies of the Nomo Monitor, 3 colorless, 2 water for a 3 power exceptional monster with Submerge and Voidwalk. Art is by David O'Connor. I think that's our first appearance of David O'Connor in Sorcery. Welcome if that's your first Sorcery card. We have Slimy Mutants, 5 colorless, 2 water threshold for a 4 power ordinary monster with Submerge, and you pay 3 colorless to transform an ally with Submerge into Slimy Mutants from your hand. Art again is by Doug Kovacs. 1 copy of Bound Spirit. It's 4 colorless and an air threshold for a 4 power ordinary spirit with disabled unless adjacent to an allied spellcaster. Art is again by Doug Kovacs, who's done a number of cards brilliantly in this set thus far. 1 copy, we have a Dormant Monstrosity, 7 colorless, 2 water threshold for a 6 power toughness elite monster with no cosmic reverie. It has Void Walk, must be cast to a corner void, costing 2 colorless less for each units in the adjacent square, and art is by Elvira Palakowski. We have another copy of Bound Spirit, but it might have been out of order for some reason, so put another Bound Spirit down here. We have 1 copy of Frozen Horror, 5 colorless, 2 water threshold for a 3 power exceptional undead with stealth, and it has Break Stealth. You disable another nearby minion until your next turn. That's new. Art again is by Melissa Benson. 1 copy, Lacuna Entity, 5 colorless, 3 water threshold for a 4 power elite monster. Art is by Zon D. Welcome to Sorcery, Zon D. This elite monster has Submerge and Voidwalk and its Genesis abilities to drag target weaker minion from an adjacent site here. You ignore regions. Most of these decks appear to be creature-based decks. We have a Regurgitator, that's fun to say. It's a 5 colorless, 2 water threshold, elite monster with 4 power. Art by Lindsay Crummett. Welcome back to Sorcery, Lindsay. Its card text reads that at the end of your turn, Regurgitator must either fill its empty belly by banishing a dead minion or empty a full belly by shooting a projectile that deals damage equal to the eaten minion's power. So that's actually a pretty fun ability for a card. It eats other cards and spits them out. We have a Harkening Kraken. This looks pretty mean. Art is by Brahm, who's going to quickly become my favorite artist of the set. 6 colorless, 2 water threshold for a 5 power exceptional monster with Submerge. It must be cast, submerged, and cost 1 colorless for each enemy in its body of water. I do think that the water decks got a power creep bump with the Gothic cards. The water cards look pretty good to me. This is a Gnarled Wendigo, 6 colorless, 1 water, exceptional monster, 5 power. This costs 2 less to cast for each minion you sacrifice at its summoning location. Art is by the legendary Dan Seagrave, who drew the Harbinger avatar. We have a Gift of the Frog, 2 colorless, 2 water threshold. It's an ordinary magic of Amphibian Friend. Summon a frog token to an allied minion and draw a spell by Pedro Ferreira. You get 2 copies of the Gift of Frog in the Harbinger deck. 2 more copies of Ice Shards. It's 3 colorless and a water threshold. It's a frozen fusillade of ordinary magic. You shoot 3 projectiles, 1 at a time. Each one deals 1 damage but melts before the 3rd step. Brian Smith did the artwork for those 2 Ice Shards. 1 copy of Monster Morphosis. 3 colorless and 2 water threshold. Exceptional magic. Art is by the legendary Braum, just look at that. And you disable target nearby minion until your next turn. At the start of that turn, you may transform it into a monster from your hand or a horrible hybrids from your collection. We have 1 copy of Swap, which I saw at Gen Con. There's some alternate art swap cards out there, but this one I think is pretty cool. 3 colorless, 2 water threshold, exceptional magic. You swap the location of target minion or artifact with another target minion or artifact, and art is by Aranja Art. Great work. The last 3 spells in the deck, we have an Abyssal Assault, 4 colorless, 2 water threshold, exceptional magic. For each point of its power, an allied monster may deal 1 damage to a unit in a square near it. Art is by Vasily again. We have 1 copy of Into the Abyss, 4 colorless, 2 water threshold, elite magic with submerge target minion or pull it into a void. It's adjacent to. Art is by Zon D. I like their art. We have 1 copy of Call of the Sea by Aranja Art, 6 colorless, 3 water threshold. This is an elite magic. Minions adjacent to target water site step towards it, then submerge all minions there. Very cool. Alright, now the Atlases. In the Harbinger deck, we have 2 copies of Croaking Swamp. It's an ordinary water site whose Genesis ability is that you may pay 1 colorless to summon a frog token here. Frogs definitely get a bump in Gothic. We have 1 copy of Algae Bloom, and it's a water site whose Genesis ability is to provide air, earth, and fire this turn. But not water. Interesting. Okay. Twilight Bloom, I think we saw in the first deck, the Necromancer deck possibly. It's an air site. Genesis ability to provide fire, air, and water. Tricolor site. Another Accursed Tower. It's an ordinary air site whose Genesis ability is to break the nearby ward. We have a Dark Alley. This is brand new. Art is by Elvira. It's an air site. The first minion that enters here gains stealth. We have 1 copy of Deep Sea by Brian Smith. It's a 2 water site. Atlas. Water, weight of water. So it's just, that's that. We have a Den of Evil. Art by Brian Smith. Reminds me of the Pudge Butcher. And it's an air site whose Genesis ability is that this turn, the next evil cast to this site costs 1 less, ignoring threshold. We have 1 copy, 2 copies make that of Stinging Kelp. Art by Alan Pollock. It's a water site. Genesis ability is to deal 1 damage to each minion at target site in this body of water. We have 2 copies of the Stream from the draft packs, water sites. We have 2 copies of the Spire, also from the draft pack lands, 2 air sites. We have 1 Elite Elder Ruins, art by Doug Kovacs. It's a water site, and you sacrifice a minion here to cast a Shoggoth submerged here from your collection pack. And the final site of the Harbinger deck. Thanks for tuning in again today on all my Gothic pre-constructed deck techs. This is the Peculiar Port. by Juan Marchuca, another one of my favorite new sorcery artists. Go check Juan out. It's an exceptional site with water threshold and its Genesis ability for 2 water. You may cast a horrible hybrids from your collection to this site. Awesome. So that's been my Harbinger deck tech for Gothic's pre-constructed decks. Thanks for tuning in today for this deck tech. Stay tuned for the final Save Your Deck Tech from the Gothic pre-constructed deck kits in my series tomorrow. Do like this video for more Gothic deck techs, and subscribe to the channel to get my playlist of all my previous Gothic decks from Beta and Arthurian Legends. Check those out. All right, thanks for tuning in today. See you tomorrow for the final deck tech of the Gothic pre-release kit. See you then.